Hey, we are back and I just checked and yes, we are recording. So that is a good thing. And I am just happy that you're here. And so I'm here again to just get really real with you and just cut to the heart of all of this food and body stuff and just get you into that solution focused mindset right away because there is so much confusion out there, seriously. Or it's just this kind of like ambiguous, like, hey, just love yourself and accept yourself as you are, but not showing us how to actually do that. So we're going to cut through the clutter and talk about how to actually do that, which is what we're going to talk about in today's video. But before we do dive in, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Leanne Ellington, and my struggle with food and my body and my weight started when I was taken to Weight Watchers at 8 years old. And I carried it with me all the way into adulthood, at one point reaching nearly 250 pounds. And then through some of the right ways, and to be honest, a lot of the wrong ways, I lost close to 100 pounds and I made over my life. But because I never addressed the root cause of my struggles, I gave myself disordered eating and a horrible self image and body image to get there, not to mention the wiring in my brain that was causing me to overeat and feel addicted to food and sugar. So I rewired my brain and I finally healed my disordered eating and my dieting mentality. And I went from this really unhealthy obsession with my body to a healthy obsession, learning about and transforming my brain. And it completely transformed my life because only then was I able to heal the disorder and really find true health, happiness, self-love, and freedom. And that's why for the past 15 years, I've been helping other diet obsessed and food crazed women just finally get off that all or nothing diet roller coaster and heal their relationship with food. But without all that restriction, obsession, and shame, and without needing years of therapy to do it. And that's what I call stressless eating. And that's also the name of my book and my podcast. And so I have a lot to cover today here in this video. And again, I'm going to try to keep it to 15 or 20 minutes. And once again, got my trusty notes here so that I don't veer off, because I really do appreciate you taking the time out to watch this. And I know you're probably super busy, so I am going to hop right in. But if you want, feel free to grab a drink and a pen and paper and just find a quiet place where you can eliminate distractions and be alone and just give yourself the gift of being 100% present to just soak up all the goodness. Okay. So today I want to talk about something that comes up all the time with the women that I talk to and the women that I work with. And it's this idea of, wanting to love yourself and your body, but you've tried the positive self-talk and you've tried the mantras and you've tried the, fake it till you make it. But all the old stuff and all the old self-talk, it keeps taking over. And even though you want to love and accept yourself, no matter what you do, it just doesn't work, right? And the reason I want to talk to you about this today is because there is so much false information and misinformation going around out there. And to be honest, most of it is just throwing more diets and exercise plans at your deeper internal struggles, especially when it comes to the topic of self-love and overcoming body shame. I mean, so many women I talk to really do want to love themselves and their bodies, but in reality, they're caught in this war with themselves, right? But they've tried to do the work on themselves and they've approached it through, spirituality and therapy and fake positivity, and it hasn't worked. Or for me personally, like the idea of self-love just felt really ambiguous and kind of fluffy and frilly, right? And no one could show me how to really, what's it look like? And that war that I was in with myself and truly love myself. And so if you're watching this right now, you've probably started to realize, like, if it really was as simple as just, memorizing positive mantras or just pretending to love yourself when you're silently criticizing yourself, you would have solved this a long time ago. So I want to teach you what's really going to move the needle for you. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about in today's video. Okay. So it is not news to you, I'm sure, but the body positivity world, it's gaining a lot of popularity now. And I really am happy about that. Really am. But here's the but. It can also be a bit dangerous if you're not careful about who or what you listen to, right? Because everyone and their mama is talking about, ditching the diets and body positivity. It's everywhere nowadays, right? It's actually kind of become en vogue to jump on that bandwagon, right? But the only problem is how, right? How do you actually stop doing what you've been doing for decades? Or maybe it's the only thing you've ever known and stop, shaming yourself and hating on yourself, or just constantly focusing on what you don't like and what you aren't doing or who you aren't being or where you feel like you're falling short, right? Because that doesn't just go away on its own. And it's not something you can, outsmart or outmotivate or out positive mantra your way to, right? You must rewire your brain and learn a whole new system of thinking when it comes to food in your body and your self-image. Otherwise, the whole body positivity or like the non-diet concept, it's going to remain vague and fluffy and confusing, and you'll never find true freedom, right? Because as you'll hear me say a lot, you can't just out positive think or fake it till you make it through a poor self-image or body image, right? Like, I just remember hearing all those positive mantras like, just love yourself no matter what, or, who cares what you weigh? It's on the inside that counts, right? Or you are worthy, you are enough, and thinking like that maybe if I just memorize enough of them or more or less like pretended to love my body when I secretly hated it, that maybe it would eventually become real, right? And that's all nice in theory, but none of it works, at least not for very long. Because if you've been being your hyper judgmental, self-critical, shaming, blaming, and comparing self your whole life, that doesn't just magically go away because you practice some positive mantras, right? And there's a big cost to this too. I mean, the whole fake positivity thing, it's not benign, right? Because the brain is this cause and effect, pliable, moldable machine. And we become good at whatever we practice, which in theory is awesome if you're practicing like genuine self-love and genuine positivity. But when you say something that doesn't feel true, it's actually perceived as a disconnect in your brain. And your brain lays down something called negative neuro associations alongside that thought, which causes your brain to further ingrain the identity of failure, or the identity of like, see, you don't finish what you start, or the identity of like, what's wrong with you? Why can't you get it together? AKA shame, right? And most women take a look at this last, but I can promise you this, like, this doesn't just magically go away. In fact, it gets worse. And that's why I keep saying that the problem that you're struggling with isn't really food. And that's why we won't be talking about how to change your diet or your exercise plan, because trying to solve your internal struggles with yet another diet, or in this case, it's fake positivity, right? It will just cause you to end up right back where you are right now, because once again, you can't outsmart or out diet or out positive think your brain and your self-image. Okay. You will always end up right back in alignment with what you believe to be true about yourself. You'll always end up right back in alignment with your self-image and the wiring in your brain. Okay. But, and I will say this, it doesn't have to be this way. And this is where I want to just kind of, lovingly nudge you and take a stand for you, because I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that your life could be dramatically transformed if you went back and unlearned some of those really unserving habits and beliefs that you acquired over the years, and relearned some new ones, as in like went back and rewired your brain for happiness and self-love. And so you might be thinking like, well, how does she know all of this? Well, I know all of this because I learned it too. Okay. This isn't just me spewing information at you. As I shared, I was stuck in my own food and body and shame prison for decades. Okay. And that's because I learned those same stories, right? I learned the stories that I had to restrict and control and deprive and punish my way to a better body, right? I learned how to shame and blame and guilt and compare and try to perfect my way to a better body, right? And I learned that until I lost the weight, like no one would truly love me or want me or find me beautiful. And I learned that I had to struggle and suffer in order to stay the course. And I learned that I had to choose, like I had to choose either health or happiness, that I couldn't possibly have both, right? And if I'm honest, like it's a load of BS. Okay. It's hogwash, right? And it's not true. And it doesn't have to stay true any longer, because every woman deserves to know what life is like when you ditch the restriction and the control and the punishment and the obsession and just break out of that food and body and diet prison for good, right? And when you actually address the self-image and the thoughts and the beliefs and the behaviors that are causing you to think and act and feel and behave the way that you are, as in just like become a version of you who not only stops stressing over food or your body, but also who sees herself differently and treats herself differently. That is when, and only then, you'll truly be free. And so here's the thing, ladies, like your body can literally hear your thoughts. Okay. So even if your diet is perfect, but your thoughts are not aligned with your goals and where you want to be and who you want to be, like with your health, your weight, all of it, you'll never release all that weight and keep it off. And the key words here, keep it off, right? If you're living in a brain and self-image where your thoughts are flooded with shame or comparisonitis or criticism or perfection, and again, I know it sounds counterintuitive or it sounds like, what does that have to do with my weight or my body? But if your self-image and the narrative in your brain is flooded with that kind of toxicity, you'll never release the weight and keep it off. Because again, you will always end up right back in alignment with what you believe to be true about yourself. Okay. You'll always end up right back in alignment with your self image and the wiring in your brain. Okay. And this is a huge issue, ladies, right? Because no one educates us on how to think, right? All the programs and influencers on social media focus on the food and usually don't even get that part right, to be honest, right? But there's two main things that we need to work on within our brains for permanent change. And notice again, I said permanent, as in just get your brain to think this way automatically so that you don't have to worry about it, right? So the first part is how to control your conscious brain. Okay. So this is the part of the brain that is in your direct control, even though we feel out of control about it lots of the times, right? The second part is how to control your subconscious brain. And that's the part of your brain responsible for your self-image and your automated behaviors. And that is the part that's kind of happening in the background, or as you'll really learn, it's kind of happening underneath, right? And so the good news is that doing this is simple when you know how, and something that we emphasize heavily with our clients because it's a game changer, right? And notice I didn't say changing their diet or changing their exercise plans, right? Nope, we change their brains because that is how you actually reverse the brain damage. And yes, it causes that kind of brain damage, that special kind that we've been talking about, the brain damage of chronic dieting. And that's what happens when you rewire your conscious brain and your subconscious brain so that you can finally conquer your struggles with food and self-sabotage and self-rejection, right? And that's when you can finally feel like you are working with your body instead, and I should say with your brain, instead of working against it, right? But that only comes when you change your brain and when you change your self-image, AKA those conscious and unconscious beliefs and wiring, okay? And if the positive thinking and the mantras and the fake positivity, AKA the conscious stuff, if it doesn't align with the wiring in your brain and your self-image and your beliefs about yourself, like AKA the subconscious stuff, you will continue working against your brain. Okay. Now, there's another really big distinction that I want to point out here too, because this is very different than, like intuitive eating or mindful eating or positive thinking. And if you've tried any of those things or all of those things and it didn't work for you, this is why. Okay. So we already talked about why using, positive thinking or fake it till you make it, like it, and you love my little air quotes, right? But it does not work to change your mindset, because if you've conditioned yourself to speak to yourself critically for years, or self-sabotage yourself for decades, or use food to cope with your emotions, or maybe it's all of these things, right? You can't just out positive think your way through that. We talked about that, right? Like your brain and self-image know how you really feel. And to that point, the same thing is really true when it comes to mindful and intuitive eating. So none of that works if you've really lost trust in yourself, or if you don't have that intuition, or if you don't remember how to listen to and connect to your body, right? And let's be honest, like the big thing here, most of your overeating is not happening because you're hungry, right? So monitoring hunger cues or using intuitive eating or any other tool that's based on using logic and reason, it's not going to fix the problem, because your problem, once again, it's not logical or intuitive, right? But also I want to address therapy. Like so many of my clients have tried therapy, or a lot of them have been in therapy for years and haven't been able to resolve this. And heck, I mean, a lot of therapists actually come through the program. But here's the thing, ladies, like, and I, again, there's nothing against therapy, but like I did the therapy and I talked it out. But what happened was I got super clear on why I was feeling like crap about myself, and I unpacked my daddy issues, but none of it equipped me with the tools and the solutions to actually move past it all. I was stuck, talking about and thinking about and focusing on the problem And I never really got the tools or the solutions to go move past it, right? And so you don't need to go unpack trauma or psychoanalyze your past to heal this. That just leaves us feeling like a victim to our circumstances and focusing on the problem, right? But if you're looking to actually move through your trauma, like not just move through it, like move past it, then that is what I'm talking about here when I say heal your self image and your beliefs. Okay. And here's the thing, ladies, like when we're talking about those like really deeply ingrained patterns of thinking after, for a lot of us, it's decades, you need laser focus and lots of practice. And you don't get that with once a week therapy. So you do need to immerse yourself in new thoughts and new habits and new beliefs and actions with a forward focused solution. And that's the process that I teach all my clients. And to be honest, that's why the majority of my clients that came to me and had been in therapy for years, and they had done the life coaching and they had done all of the personal development, like they'd done it all, right? But they were still showing up as, for lack of a better way of saying it, like they felt like a shell of a version of themselves. And on top of that, they still felt powerless to control themselves around food, right? But when you finally address the self-image and the thoughts and the beliefs and the behaviors, and when you finally address like what's going on inside your head, your heart, your brain, that's causing you to reach for food to comfort or numb or distract, or the brain that learned to be so codependent on dieting and restriction to just like get that sense of control back, right? That is, of course, until you can't take it anymore and you eventually binge, right? When you finally address all of that and get that taken care of, food will no longer be an issue. I can promise you that, right? And that's exactly what happened with my clients that were almost at the point of giving up because they had, again, done the life coaching and the personal development and years of therapy. Some of my clients, like truly decades of therapy, right? But when we rewired their brains and addressed the self-image and the thoughts and the beliefs and the behaviors, and of course, like we had to give them a new system of thinking when it came to food and like how to make decisions around food and all of that, right? But that's when everything shifted. And here's the big thing. We did not change their diets, right? We did not change their exercise plans. We helped each woman rewire her brain and self-image and heal the real problem. And to be honest, most women take a look at this, like this conversation, excuse me, they take a look at this last. And I get it too. Like it's not as sexy as lose 30 pounds in 30 minutes, right? But you know what else isn't sexy? Walking around with what I call your inner bitch, dictating your every move and narrating your story. And if you've had that narrator in your brain for a long time, and you've been being your hyper judgmental, self-critical, shaming, blaming, comparing self for a long time, that doesn't just magically go away, right? If you don't address the habits and thinking and behaviors and the wiring in your brain that got you there, law of cause and effect says you'll go create more of the same. Like it's not in your mind, it's in your brain and it's in your self-image. And as you're now getting clear on, I probably sound like a broken record, but you cannot out diet, outperform, or outsmart your self-image and the wiring in your brain. And so many women, like they think they just need to, change what they eat or change their workout routine, or, they blame lack of time or lack of willpower or lack of support for not being able to stick with anything long-term. But what they don't realize is that, wherever you go, there you are, right? So the thing that's holding you where you are right now is not your circumstances. It's your state of mind that's gotten wired in your brain. And until we shift that, nothing else will change because you create more of whatever you believe, not whatever you want. Now, I really want you to hear that. So I'm going to say it again. Okay. You create more of what you believe, not more of what you want. And that's why you cannot address this problem logically. Okay. It is not logical. It's emotional. It's in your nervous system. It's in your brain. It's in your self-image, and it's in your beliefs. Okay. And that mindset that it's all about positive thinking or willpower motivation, it doesn't work for you because none of it's meaningful and none of it's real. And again, you can't out positive think your self-image because your brain really knows how you really feel. So what you really need are new tools, not more rules, right? Because no woman, including you, deserves to live in this hell where all of your mental real estate is being spent on food or your body, right? Where your value and your self-worth lives outside of you, or it's just reliant on the number on the scale or your jean size or how much you ate that day or did eat that day, right? where your inner bitch is constantly judging and criticizing you and making you feel like a self-sabotager, right? And I hate that, like, because there are people in your life that need you to be the best version of yourself, like to actually be present and at peace and show up as that version of yourself in your life and in their lives. And that's why I'm here to just give you the raw and real truth that I wish somebody had told me decades ago so that you can end that vicious cycle and heal this for good, right? So that's why I'm here to ask, like, what if you entered into this new conversation, right? What if you ditched the positive mantras and the fake positivity and explored actually addressing the conscious and the unconscious stuff that's cluttering your confidence and damaging your self-image, right? And what if you stopped just, searching for the next way to lose weight or drop a few pounds? And instead, you went and genuinely reversed the brain damage of chronic dieting, and you went and you rewired your brain and self-image so that you can finally conquer your struggles with food and self-sabotage and self-rejection and all those beliefs, right? But do it right and do it one time so that you can just have it forever and live this way forever, right? And here's the biggie, like, what if you stopped believing that dieting was the solution that would get you there? And that, again, it was something that you even wanted to get better at, especially if this diet mentality has only led you to frustration, sadness, and self-doubt and just brought you back to where you were, maybe even worse, right? Can you imagine what life would be like if that was the approach that you took? Okay. And is this hard, right? Well, yeah, it's simple, but it's not easy, right? It's not a quick fix or an overnight miracle. I mean, we're not talking about another diet and weight loss program here, right? We're talking about using brain science to help you change you. But that's where I'm inviting you to just choose your version of hard, right? The hard of staying stuck in the prison you're in right now without a key, or the hard of putting in the time and energy one time so that you have it forever, right? And that's what I'm talking about when I say, like, reverse the brain damage and rewire your brain so that it does just think this way on its own. Okay. So that is what I wanted to share with you today, ladies. And, even if you just got one small nugget of wisdom or clarity from today's video, well, that would honestly make me very happy. So yeah, I'll just end it there for today. And yeah, I'm Leanne Ellington. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time. Bye.